Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our session today, where we're going to be discussing the work that we've been able to accomplish, part of the GPAI, and our group being focused on innovation and commercialization. Through the presentation today, we're going to be looking at the group itself. I'll quickly brief on myself and my co-chair, Françoise. And then she will dive into giving you insights on what work have we been actually achieving so far. And for each subgroup, then we're going to look at some of the conclusions that they've been already gathering and some of the recommendations that they've identified. And then to conclude the session, we're going to be discussing some of the upcoming work and the direction of our group in the near future. So let's look at our team. I have the privilege of co-chairing this group. I'm Jean-François Gagné. I'm the founder and CEO of Element AI, and I am co-chairing this group with Françoise Soulier-Fogelman, who is a scientific advisor at Hub France IA. Our team is composed of an international group of experts who have expertise, of course, in this domain, but also a broad knowledge from all the different other area of business. Now, if we take a look at what have we been mandated to focus on, the specific of our scope is really to look at the commercialization of artificial intelligence and how do we drive innovation. Yes, of course, in research and development, but also more specifically in the industry. We're going to be thinking about this in terms of how can we impact the process, how can we impact the collaboration dynamics, how can we help the industry maybe identify new emerging business model that artificial intelligence opens up, and we'll try to formalize these recommendations in different forms. Either it's by suggesting standards, some norms, self-certification, area where we need to create incentive, or area where we should actually let the market play its role. So with that, I'll leave you here and let Françoise talk to you about the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Jeff. So the work we have accomplished is basically done in 3 deliverables plus 1, and I explained the plus 1. First, we started to work on a deliverable to address the new business models and new services, new ideas, new products, because we think AI can do that, and this is going to be presented by Umakant and Emant. Then in the deliverable number 2, we looked at the mechanism the private sector could put in place to promote AI innovation and commercialization. This work is going to be presented by Ingo. And then in D3, what public sector could do to support innovation and commercialization. And this work is going to be presented by Lawrence. Finally, we started working on IP, which is, of course, critical for commercialization, but this work will not be included as a deliverable because the work is just preliminary still. So let me now turn to the conclusion and recommendation of a different subgroup who have produced these 3 deliverables. So I turn first to D1, which is new business model, and Emant Darbar is going to talk about that. Go ahead, Emant.
New business to promote innovation and commercialization in AI was a very hard topic to address, because there are many issues which are addressed. First topic, which would be the new ways of doing business, pulling data together, train AI models, share that, because that's again is going to be creating newer jobs like anonymization or annotation. These type of new jobs can be created, and those things will be another business model which we'll look into. So new ways to company to collaborate R&D, innovation, value sharing, and data sharing, that becomes very important. So we have very effectively tried to bring B2C and public to citizen business model, which we will take it further. So I'll request Umakant to take the things further. Thank you.
Hi, this is Umakant here. I actually am a co-founder and CEO of AI and Robotics Technology Park in India, as well as also the co-founder of AI Foundry, one of the venture studios, which is building AI for next 6 billion. AI is kind of quite unique because this is a phase, unlike internet or smartphone, where a technology revolution is happening along with business model innovation. So it's actually interesting to look at, right? So you have technology innovation which is happening at a quick pace. At the same time, we have new kind of business models that are evolving. So if I look at the horizontal business models which are there in AI infra, data, data models, or communication, they're evolving on what we call as a resource as a service model, where AI solutions either offered or deployed as a service, and the payment is based on how much it has been used, right? On the other side, we have these vertical solutions which are taking the new unique AI solutions to the market, where they are developing the business model on what we call as value as a service model, VAS, which basically is directly linked to the proportion of outcome they're generating for the consumers. And it's interesting to see because this ecosystem is becoming quite complex, right? And there are three major challenges that we see as these business models evolve. One, that it is going to lead to complex tax structures, right? It might be very difficult for, especially both VAS as well as RAS, might be difficult for governments to understand, and it might result in over taxation or under taxation. Second, it could be creating complex go-to-market because of B2B, B2C, and even B2P, which is business to public. It will have its own challenges. Third is the potential conflict of interest that actually exists because you have horizontal players, and they might actually also look at creating the vertical solutions. So they might actually cross-leverage the insights, which might be detrimental to innovation. So we looked at these challenges, and we also identified 5 major suggestions to unblock innovation and commercialization for these business models. Talent. We need to create open talent by encouraging academia to open and join startups. Second was data. How do we create large open data banks, which may be contributed by the government and also by large business community in a privacy-preserving model, which incentivizes people to share more data. Third was what we call as research and infra, where you can actually have open and network research model. It could be funded by government or large companies as a part of corporate social responsibility to create and lower the cost of access to AI infra for small and medium enterprises. The fourth one, we looked at certification, auditing, and ethics services. And some of this could be actually picked up by GPAI, and it could create the level playing field. The fifth one, which is the capital, and that actually is a major challenge. So what we thought was that if there are AI innovation funds, it could be partially funded by government, and it could be supported by large industry players with reduced tax structures, with incentives to attract capital participants. It could lead to smaller niche AI innovations becoming bigger and scaling and creating that innovation diversity that we so crave. And I want to hand it over back to Francois.
Thank you, Umakant. Now we are going to move to the private sector actions, D2, that Ingo is going to present. Up to you, Ingo.
Thank you, Francois. In our group, we looked at the mechanisms that the private sector could put in place to promote AI adoption and innovation. In order to do that, we first identified key challenges and roadblocks that the private sector is facing and described them on a high level in the document. We also then looked at the approaches for solutions that we saw, and again described them on a high level. And those solutions can address one or many of the challenges. We then looked into the private sector initiatives and discovered initiatives using a bottom-up approach in the countries, mainly in the countries of our experts, to understand how they successfully promote the AI adoption. We did some research and documented both how they address the challenges and what the key success factors are for those initiatives, and map those in a matrix that to understand what challenges the initiatives address and what solutions they are using in order to do that. What are the key findings? Well, first, it's important to understand the challenges and the roadblocks for the public sector. We have to look at the social technical environment. We have to look at the AI adoption, the data economy, and the digital infrastructure. And all of those need to be developed and balanced in countries, in businesses, in ecosystems. There are different solution approaches to that due to specific situations in countries or industry segments. And this is reflected in the initiatives that we saw and how they approach their solutions. We also have only 15 initiatives reviewed so far. So in the next phase, what we tend to do is broaden that scope to more countries. Right now, we basically have about 6 or so. And we also hope with that to fill some gaps, because we saw that the initiatives are addressing certain challenges more than others. So by broadening the scope, we want to fill the metrics. And with that, then may identify some best practice recommendations. And that will be especially with a focus on the small and mid-sized enterprises that are very important to almost all countries. Back to you, Françoise.
Thank you, Ingo. So we are going to move next to the approach for the public sector actions. And this is for you, Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you, Francois. Hi, this is Lawrence, and I'm the Director for AI Industry Innovation AI Singapore. My team, we look at what the government should do, should not do in trying to promote the innovation and commercialization of AI in the private sector, and especially we will focus on the SME. So some of the key challenges that the team has identified and how we went about doing that was to get each team member to list out the top 3 issues that they faced in terms of what the government can do, what the government should not do, and we consolidated all the inputs from the team members, including doing additional research from other sources. The key challenges that we have identified includes the need for the government to help prioritize key innovations. For some countries where the resources are limited, the government needs to step in to say these areas that we should focus on. Other challenges that we have raised includes the need to balance public interests against the commercialization goals of the commercial sectors. We want the AI technologies to be neutral, to be country neutral, to be ethical, and to have international cooperation whenever possible. Many of the countries have proposed various solutions. Some of them are already in operations. Some of them are in planning stage. And these are the 5 that more or less most countries have settled on. The need for the government to provide the infrastructure and a trust platform. The need for the government to help coordinate resources between government agencies and larger organizations, private organizations, and industry associations. The need for the government to actually promote AI literacy and talent development, and this is an important area. It's important to promote or train up the PhDs and the scientists and the engineers to make sure that AI can be executed, but also important is to promote the understanding of what AI is among the working professionals, the general public, because without understanding of what AI is, there may be a lot of fear and pushback from the citizens in the adoptions of AI. In regulations, I think we're very clear that AI will be put into place in sectors that are already regulated, and in those cases, yes, AI should be regulated. But when AI is being deployed in sectors where there are no existing regulation because it doesn't need to be regulated, then the government should take a lighter hand in that. And definitely appropriate support in terms of grants and helping companies to develop their necessary talents. So in the areas of what the government should not do, again, we are very clear that we need to take appropriate actions, regulate when necessary, and step back when not necessary. And important is that the government should also set the right examples in developing AI solutions at the government sector. And I'll report, talk a little bit more about that. Thank you. Back to you, Francois.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. Now we are going to move to our last topic, which is, of course, we need to protect IP for protecting AI innovation. And Hiroshi has started the work on that. Go ahead, Hiroshi.
Thank you, Francois. So our team is working on protecting the AI innovation from IP standpoint. Of course, we have to understand what the landscape of the IP and AI, and then we have to make sure that the IP practices does not prevent the acceleration of innovation and the commercialization of AI technologies. We put together the team of 8 experts. Some of them are shown in these slides. And we had 3 meetings so far. We set the common understanding of the landscape of IP and AI. And we are discussing what are the major roadblocks for innovation and commercialization from the IP standpoint. We are going to work on this, and the deliverables will be for the next time. Back to you, Francois.
Yeah. Thank you, Hiroshi. So this is the work we've done so far. It should be obvious at this point that the work is not finished. It's just the beginning. So in the further work, basically what we want to do is to really go deeper into lots of different topics that we have touched on, like the different initiatives, the different things that countries have done. We have only 6, as was said before. We need more information, more input to analyze what are the challenges that are faced for deploying AI widely in industry, how we can do better than we are doing, how we can do in a safe way, in a more international way with lots of collaboration also. Basically, we have identified 4 topics that we will focus more in the next stage. The first one deals with SMEs. In our work, we have noticed huge disparities between geographies, of course, but also between different sectors like you cannot imagine that what we are doing is the same, whether it applies to startup, SMEs, or large group, or the government, actually, or the public sector. So we need to look better into these differences, and we want to be able to look at the state of the art and the best practices for deploying AI at scale within SMEs. SMEs are very important for many of our economies, and they require specific approaches, actually. So report on existing initiative that were started will have to be deepened a lot. A second topic is going to be addressed about certification, reliability of AI algorithm systems. If we want AI to be broadly accepted by our citizens, we need to make sure that this AI application can be certified. And this is a huge topic which need to be covered, starting by a state of the art, actually, on the topic. The third one is about the guidance and assessment of standard and best practices for ethical by design. We want systems which are trustworthy, and there are principles for do that. We want to study this. So this, of course, interacts very much with the subgroup on AI, on responsible AI, one of the other subgroups. So we need to interact with them on that. But we also need to see this from the point of view of companies and what it means for companies to design and develop ethical by design application. The last topic is going to be on monopolies in data, infrastructure, talents, which can be a big block for development of AI. In all these topics, be it data or talents, we will need to interact with the other subgroups on the future of work of the data governance. So basically, in the next stage, 4 topics plus IP, of course, and interaction with other subgroups, which we haven't done yet, and which we need to be done, probably for specific workshop, actually. So thank you, everybody, for listening to this presentation. We will be happy to see you at the conference. I put in quote unquote until the sea, of course, but it will be we will be here to answer questions if you have questions. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.